Thank you very much. Thank you, Moggy. Reminds me of the good old days of the campaign. I want to start by acknowledging the members on the platform here, our political leader, our chairman, the members of the executive, and a special good evening to all you supporters of the United Workers' Party. You know, it's not just Spider. The UWP is about good representation. Bometan gaidi taleala leba ka coupe yo ba ka coupe. Mwetan yo vle coupe gozile. But I'm sending a warning right now. Anyhow they come, we're ready for them. I want to wish every United Workers' Party supporter a very happy 50th anniversary. It is indeed a time to celebrate because you know that the United Workers' Party stands on a record of performance in this country. I am proud to be part of this party. I am proud to be a part of that history that we are talking about in terms of what the United Workers' Party has done for St. Lucia. When you talk of the United Workers' Party, you talk of progress. When you talk of the United Workers' Party, you talk of development. When you talk of the United Workers' Party, you talk of service to the people of St. Lucia. Let's talk about the St. Lucia Labour Party. At every turn, they have set St. Lucia back in its development. At every turn, they have imposed suffering on the people of St. Lucia. They promised the people of St. Lucia that when they assume office, it will be JOBS, 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 jobs. They were talking about JOBS. Now all we're hearing is the talk of BS. We cannot see the jobs. On the contrary, our unemployment rate is now almost 25%, a record in this country. The St. Lucia Labour Party promised you that when they get into office, they would make available $100 million for development and for servicing the people of St. Lucia. We are still waiting for the $100 million. They promised you that they would make the cabinet smaller than that of the United Workers' Party. The cabinet today is bigger than what the United Workers' Party had. I remember, like Guy mentioned, when the public servant asked for over 20% increase. And remember, when we talk about economic crisis and world recession, at the height of the world recession, the United Workers' Party was in office. The world is now coming out of recession, but it is now that St. Lucia is dipping worse into the recession. We offered 14.5% increase to the public servants. We asked for 3 months. The St. Lucia Labour Party, through the agents, mobilized the public servants to strike because they would not wait for 3 months to get the 14.5%. Today, what are those same public servants who Kenny Anthony was matching with, what are they getting from Kenny Anthony? And let me tell you, what Guy mentioned here is no joke. So if you are a public servant, take it seriously. You have one of two choices. You go home or you get a pay cut. But we are saying that there is another way. We are saying that there is a better way. And if Kenny Anthony and the St. Lucia Labour Party thinks that through the mismanagement of the economy of this country, they can abuse the public servants by causing public servants, career public servants, to go home and lose their jobs, they have another thing coming. Because we are going to stand with the public servants. And if they do not know what to do to control the overspending that is happening in government, we ask them to start by firing all the party hacks that they have hired since the 2011 election. And you have already heard that most of them are hired at high level in high paying jobs. And they have transformed the public service and the government wages to something so astronomical that they cannot afford now to pay the public servant, and so they are thinking of sending public servants home. Another practice that we have to stand against is the fact that when there are positions available in the public service, instead of promoting career public servants, they are bringing their party hacks from outside and imposing them on the public servants. I want to say to public servants, even if you are just a messenger, an office attendant, and there is an opening for a permanent secretary, when a deputy permanent secretary is not promoted to permanent secretary, you are affected. Because if the deputy permanent secretary is promoted, there is a domino effect that will end up affecting the lowest level. And so, public servants can aspire to reach the higher levels if we allow the true practice of public service and do not politicize the public service like Labour Party is doing. There are so many things I want to touch on tonight, but it has been a long evening. But I want to say this. We heard so many promises. We heard a lot of propaganda. We always knew that the Labour Party could not deliver on any of their promises. We always knew that more than half of what they say is merely propaganda. But what hurts me, what disappoints me, is sometimes when we go around repeating the propaganda of the St. Lucia Labour Party. For example, we are now celebrating our 50th anniversary, and we are looking back on our accomplishments, and we are looking back on those who have contributed to the development of this country through the United Workers' Party. And let me just take a moment to acknowledge some of the stalwarts from my constituency. And I can say my constituency because you know I never lost that constituency. Yo vle mene tout moun l'audience. Yo waje pou mene tout moun l'audience. Mais là ni en l'audience yo pa vle ale. Yo mene Alan l'audience, yo mene Ezekiel l'audience. Mais Ezekiel ni en l'audience il vle ale ak yo pa vle ale. But you know what? The day will come. Judgment day will come sooner than they think. And at that time, we will not need a court. We will not need a magistrate. You will be the judge. And you will decide that the St. Lucia Labour Party must go and United Workers' Party must return. I want to tell you this. We remember St. Jude's had a fire in 2009. The United Workers' Party began its processes of rebuilding that hospital almost immediately. Is somewhere out of form. I'll get my form soon. I remember 1 year after the fire, through the voice of Henry Mangal, the St. Lucia Labour Party was putting pressure on the government, saying that it is time that we give the sportsmen the stadium back. Well, you know what? We had done a lot of work towards giving the stadium back to the sports people. But they are now in office about 2.5 years. They still cannot deliver that stadium back to the sportsmen. Why? That is because they cannot deliver on anything that they promise. And that is because they cannot manage anything involving government. Another question I want to ask. It is my information that Kenny Anthony, who represents Beaufort, since becoming Prime Minister, has never visited St. Jude's. That is the amount of interest he has in the staff and the people at St. Jude's. I also understand that all businesses are closing St. Jude's account, and they have a difficulty getting supplies and medication to provide to the people at the hospital. You don't hear of those things when the United Workers' Party is in government. I want to say to you, the government has realized that they cannot deliver on their promises. They have realized that they have no plans and no answers. So what they are trying to do is use all kinds of strategies to cause people to be submissive. One of the things that they're doing is all of a sudden, they lambast us every day. The day after Thomas, they were putting pressure on us that it was time that the Bad Lil be repaired. That Guy Joseph wasn't doing enough. The government wasn't doing enough. They are there for 2.5 years. They still cannot complete the repairs from Thomas. And I want to tell you this. When we hear the talk that they run, we sometimes, as UWP supporters, repeat it. For example, in Grozily, I hear people talking about Emma is hard to beat because Emma is doing a lot of work. But when I challenge them and I ask them, where is the lot of work? I don't know if she's doing a lot of work in Soufrière. But I know for sure there is no lot of work taking place in Grozily. And I can tell you, if you look at my record as a past representative for Grozily, it is unmatched and unsurpassed. And I want to take this opportunity to salute those who went before me, who set the foundation for me that I have built upon and will continue to build upon. And while this is a national celebration, it is incumbent on me to recognize people like Alan Bousquet, who represent Grozily back in the day when Grozily and Babono was one constituency as a United Workers' Party representative. I want to also recognize Ignatius Felician, though on 2 occasions he failed to win the seat, but he was a candidate for the United Workers' Party in '69 and '74. I want to recognize Milton Moses, who ran for us in 1979. I want to recognize Peter Phillip, who was the first UWP to win the constituency of Grozily as one, separated from Babono after independence. Peter Phillip, who spent 5 years as parliamentary representative in Grozily. I also want to recognize Philip Hippolyte, who contested the second election of 1987, Peter Phillip having contested the first one. I want to recognize Mikey Pilgrim, who contested in 92 and 97. And of course, following on the heels of those people, yours truly, Spider Montoute, who's been there since 2001 and will be there as long as you say that I have to stay. So when you look at the record of the United Workers' Party, we have a proud record of achievement and performance. The few things that Labour can boast about, we had to put a hand to ensure that they were in fact things of value. When I became minister responsible for sports and I visited the stadium in Vieux-Fort, that stadium was falling apart. That stadium could not qualify to host any meet that would be sanctioned by the International Amateur Athletics Association. We went there, we laid down an internationally certified track where Carifta Games was held. We also had to spend $7 million on repairs to that stadium. You know why? Because when they do anything, if they do something, it's never something good. I remember for World Cup cricket, we had to spend over $3 million on repairs to Beausejour. The lighting program for playing fields, that started under the United Workers' Party. That is a United Workers' Party program. The only things that they have introduced is victimization and step program. If you look behind you, you will see lights there. While it was opened and commissioned during that time, your representative, Dr. Rigobert, can tell you, she was the one who initiated the request for it under our watch, and that was in place already before they came. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have a party that has served you well. You have a party with a record. If you look all around you, the significant developments in this country took place under the United Workers' Party. Now I want to say this. After 50 years, and the United Workers' Party is 50 not out. That flambeau is not out and will never be out. We have another 50 years to go, because that is the party that has the answer for the future and the development of this country. So I ask all Flambeau supporters, as you are here in your numbers tonight, to continue to support your party. I suspect I had a hard time convincing you of that last election, but I suspect this time around, I have no difficulty in convincing you. Because Saint-Lucien ka wè misè en bas leba. Saint-Lucien ka pas fait en bas leba. I call on you not only to strengthen your resolve in ensuring that we remove labor, but to resolve that we are going to remove them before 5 years is over. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we can assess the mistake that St. Lucian's made. 2.5 years on, it is midterm, and I'm here to give you the midterm report on the St. Lucia Labour Party. The midterm report on the St. Lucia Labour Party is increased unemployment. The midterm report on the St. Lucia Labour Party shows more St. Lucians are suffering because of the implementation of VAT at a time when so many other shocks were introduced into the economy of St. Lucia. The Labour Party removed 50% of the subsidies on some of the basic commodities that poor people need to survive: rice, flour, and sugar. So rice, flour, and sugar has become more expensive in this country at a time when you have to pay VAT on everything else. So while they're saying there's no VAT on rice, flour, and sugar, they have reduced the subsidy on rice, flour, and sugar. Water has gone up. Fuel has gone up. Everything, electricity has gone up. Everything has gone up except your salary. And now they are telling public servants, brace themselves for a pay cut. People, we must remain united and we must remain focused. We will have our internal issues to deal with, but let's deal it maturely. When we talk about democracy, sometimes democracy entails contests and competition. You will not always have your way, but the mature way is to accept the will of the majority of the people. And we as a party want to preach that. We as a party practice that. I want you to remain steadfast with your party, support your party, contribute to the success of your party, because after 50 years of a proud record, we want you to be with us for another 50 years to continue to develop this country. But this time around, when you see the progress begin, do not take a step back by returning Labour to office. Because every time Labour comes in, they undo the good that the United Workers' Party has done. The United Workers' Party has worked miracles in the face of adversity. And every time, now, what commence à abuser flambeau ça cette ici. Because chaque Labour détruit pays, on ka couiller sur nous pour vivre manger. But we stand ready and willing to do that each and every time. All we are saying this time is let's not fall for bluff and propaganda, because that is the only thing the Labour Party is good at. Moi a dit avant, UWP bon les vini pour gouvernement. And I heard someone criticize our public relations, but you have seen an improvement in our public relations. That is an area we know the Labour Party is good at. Propaganda. We will not engage in propaganda, but we'll give you the truth, we'll give you the facts, and we will remind you of the record of the United Workers' Party. Because one of the mistakes some of us made was that we kept saying to ourselves in the last election that we have worked and we have performed and that the people can see the work that we have done, while we were not responding to the propaganda of the St. Lucia Labour Party. I don't tomber pour lui. I don't décider la caillotte pas vote. But let's look at the propaganda and the lies that were told to you. All the things that were promised that have not been delivered. Yo juste promettre that la tenir worship en la wadla. KSP après élection pour arrêter Richard. Avec that Stephenson King te savent pour qui yo point visa Richard et qui pas gadi. But Kenny Anthony is the Prime Minister since 2011. Let him come and tell St. Lucians why they took Richard's visa. We must never forget those lies and those false pretenses and those deceptions. And we must make them pay for it, because they have no respect for you. And that they believe every time they can get away by bluffing you. Nowadays, they're talking about unity. Let's come together. Let's put politics aside. But when the United Workers' Party won the election in 2006, days after the election, they were on the market step saying they're going to take back their country and how they're going to create Armageddon and all kinds of things like that. Well, you know what? We're not going to take back the country by any force. We're not going to promise any Armageddon. But we assure St. Lucians that if they cannot take any more of the suffering that they are going through, we stand ready to fight with you to ensure that we remove the Labour Party on your back. So I ask you the question tonight. After 2.5 years of broken promises, after 2.5 years of deception, after 2.5 years of hardship and suffering, can you take another 2.5 years? Can you take another 2.5 years? What are you doing about it? Do not stay and ask, Kisa Guy Cafe, Kisa Snake Cafe, Kisa Spider Cafe. We are willing to do what we have to do, but we need your support to do it. We need your support to do it. And so when you see they try to persecute us, it's because they have no answers to your problems. And so they try to shift the focus on us by taking us to court for all kinds of nonsense. But because Mamunga complain. But I am in court as well. I am in court as well. Because they decided to take me to court in my personal capacity because Treasure Bay, the casino, is taking the National Lottery to court. And the minister who was responsible for National Lottery was the Minister of Sports. I'm no longer the Minister of Sports, so they put me in my personal capacity. But you know what? We will overcome that. Because once Jah is on our side, we shall never fear. The United Workers' Party will stand against all of the victimization, attacks, and persecutions of the St. Lucia Labour Party. So people, I ask you to play your part. Raise your voices. You know some of the facts because you feel the suffering yourself. Call the radio stations. Somebody asked you to call New Spin and call What Makes Me Mad. Call Jugwa and let your voices be heard. Because let me tell you something. There's nothing to be afraid of. It cannot be worse than it is. And it's not going to get better. So don't keep quiet thinking that you may stand a chance. Because you have to be 120% labor to get anything from labor. And they know you're not labor. So you're not going to get anything from them. The only government that serves the entire country when we're in office without discrimination is the United Workers' Party. But unfortunately for the Labour Party supporters, what the Labour Party is doing this time is dealing with the higher-ups, the hierarchy, the Leo Clarks, the Michels. Those are the people who are getting it good, while the rank-and-file supporter is suffering just like you. Some of them are crying more than you. So we have to embrace them because they will realize while they were promised better days, they had good days on the United Workers' Party. So the time has come for us to return to the good days of the United Workers' Party here in St. Lucia. So ladies and gentlemen, I will not keep you very long tonight, but I just want to say that it is a proud moment for me to be a part of this organization, this great institution called the United Workers' Party, that has done so much for St. Lucia and is prepared to continue to do for St. Lucia, because at the end of the day, we have the answers that they do not have. When you look at our economy, the economy is failing because of all the shocks I told you that they introduced all at once. And then they turn around and they say to jumpstart the economy, they will give you a construction stimulus package. Now that the construction stimulus package has come to an end, they're thinking of extending it. But it has not served its purpose, and it will never serve its purpose because we told them so. And you know why it's not going to serve its purpose? The same people who are supposed to invest in building, the same people who are supposed to construct and buy materials, you are bleeding them with taxes, so they have no disposable income. So at the end of the day, you're making less taxes because businesses are closing, people are losing jobs, and your stimulus package cannot work because people are not working, people have no money. It is simple economics, but they're so smart that they cannot understand that. At the end of the day, go back to the policies of the United Workers' Party. I remember that they told you that the worst thing that the UWP did to St. Lucia was to bring Taiwan in St. Lucia. And that when they return, they would bring China because they believe in the one China policy. Well, guess what? Now they are leaning and depending on the same Taiwan that they did not want to see in St. Lucia. The only things that are working for St. Lucia are the things that the United Workers' Party put in place. You have to recognize that. So, ladies and gentlemen, do not lose hope. Do not give up. In adversity, you have to stand up. Do not let your sorrows drown you. And I like that song. A song by John Legend. There's one line in it that I like. And it goes something like this. Though my head is on the water, I'm still breathing. I don't know how that is done. But even though your head is on the water, continue breathing. Même si vous avez un snorkel, like soup and your snorkel, you can use a stalk from a papaya leaf. But continue breathing. Because once there is life, there is hope. And once the United Workers' Party is there for you, there is a future. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. I want to ask you to continue to support the United Workers' Party and its programs. And when we call on you, I want to see more of you come out to stand up for your country. Because soon and very soon, I know there will be cause for demonstration. Because if they touch the public servants, we are going to go to Castries and let them feel our weight. If they do not remove VAT on medication by budget time, we are going to go to Castries and make them feel our weight. Because who don't hear must feel. And we have to let the St. Lucia Labour Party know that they are not in control. We are in control. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you and good night.